Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all those massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Even those half-pound USDA Prime Wagyu burgers are clearly the best I've ever had. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's www.uppercutchops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! Welcome in, everybody watching on television, everybody listening in on radio on Pick Your Favorite Affiliate, from Honolulu all the way up to Maine, down to Florida, all corners of this country, and even around the world, too, for all you flat earthers out there. All right. You're not going to believe this one. Kind of like that whole flat earth thing. Listen, folks. This guy has been out of the league, being the NFL, for 8 years now. And for very good reason, too. He just, frankly, just wasn't good enough. However, the powers that be, somehow, in its craziest of ways, for some reason, seem to have this guy still in any kind of a conversation, but not as a player this time, but as a coach. Yeah, good old Colin Kaepernick. Ah, yeah, that guy. You remember that guy, kneeling for the national anthem and all that other crap. Guess what? Colin Kaepernick, as an NFL coach? What? Jim Harbaugh had conversations with him, with his former quarterback, about a coaching role with the Chargers. Give me a damn break. Again, he hasn't played since 16, but remains hopeful of resuming his career with a team. Isn't this the guy that, didn't he sue the league? I'm not sure, folks. You'll have to correct me on this or inform me. I don't know. But I believe this is the guy that either sued the league or he sued the Players Association or sued somebody, got a whole bunch of money for something. And it was one of those situations, well, what are you going to do? You're going to go back to the people that you sued and look for a job on top of it? Is that what we're talking about here? Yes, in these United States of America, only a place like this, something like that can happen. So, as Yahoo reports and many, many other outlets across the United States and around the world are reporting Colin Kaepernick and Jim Harbaugh have worked together in the past, and if it were up to the Chargers coach, the former NFL quarterback would be back in the league as part of his coaching staff. And an enormous chorus of boos. I wish we could turn the volume up on that one. Anyway, speaking to USA Today's reporter, Harbaugh said that after he was hired by the Chargers back in January, he spoke to Colin Kaepernick about coming on board in a non-playing role. But in the 7 months since that conversation, nothing has materialized. And of course, that always gets a round of applause here. Me as a Chargers fan, I don't want him there, but that's me. So Jim Harbaugh had said, quote, yeah, we talked a little bit about it. He's considering it. He was out of the country. He said he was going to get back to me. We haven't reconnected since then. That was early in the year, close quote. So, one reason for the lack of movement on that front is that Colin Kaepernick is still holding out hopes of resuming what? His playing career? Really? He's not played a down in the NFL since January 1st of 2017. If I had it my way, it would be another 100 years. Anyway, Harbaugh and Kaepernick were together for 4 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers from 2011 to 2014, right as Colin Kaepernick, his rise began after taking over for an injured Alex Smith. He would help the franchise reach Super Bowl whatever when they lost to the Baltimore Ravens and then the NFC Championship game the following season. Guess he just wasn't good enough. Anyway, Jim Harbaugh said, quote, "He's one of my favorite players that I've ever coached. Love Colin," close quotes. Yeah, well, you're the only one that I know of, buddy. And I've got some other information that Mr. Harbaugh allegedly had said to somebody else in confidentiality. We will not say that name, but I want to get to that after this blurb from USA Today and from Yahoo. Now, in an interview this week with Sky Sports, Colin Kaepernick, who is 36 years of age, said he continues to train in hopes that an opportunity will arise to play in the NFL again. In fact, he had said, quote, "We've just got to get one of these team owners to open up. It's something I've trained my whole life for. So to be able to step back on the field, I think that would be a major moment, a major accomplishment for me. I think I could bring a lot to a team and help them win a championship," close quotes. Really? You couldn't do it before, and now you've had how many years? And you still probably can't do it now, so get over yourself. Anyway, a few NFL teams have either spoken to him or held a workout with him over the past few years, including, yes, the Raiders, who have a perpetual quarterback problem. Nonetheless, Harbaugh has done his part to help make a comeback possible. A couple of years ago, while still coaching at Michigan, he arranged for Kaepernick to hold a workout at halftime of the Wolverines' spring game. Bah humbug. In fact, quote, "I can help make you a better team. I can help you win games," is what he said after the workout. I don't believe that for 1 second. Anyway, Kaepernick wouldn't be the only former 49er on the Harbaugh staff should he decide to give up his dream of playing and move into a coaching or consultant role. Chargers staffer already features Navarro Bowman, a linebacker, Jonathan Goodwin, offensive assistant quarterbacks, and Will Tukwafu, assistant defensive line. Have you ever heard of any of those guys? I haven't. So, I mean, look, Kaepernick hasn't played since 16 while being effectively, in his eyes, blackballed from the NFL over his pregame protest of police brutality and racial injustice. And of course, the NFL shifted its public stance on protests in the aftermath of that alleged situation in St. Louis or wherever the hell it was, or Minneapolis it was, excuse me, at the hands of the former police officers from Minneapolis, the police department or whatnot. Anyway, and then there was that whole alleged movement where certain lives allegedly mattered and which were brought together by some people that pocketed a whole bunch of money, and a whole bunch of people created a whole bunch of criminal mischief, burning cities down and all this other crap, getting away with it, and basically, in my opinion, demeaning the United States of America and what the people stand for here, which is complete and utter lunacy. In my opinion, Colin Kaepernick contributed to the delinquency and the backwards and out-of-control spiral of the United States of America for the last umpteen seemingly years. It is an abomination as I see it. This guy shouldn't be, in my opinion, anywhere near the National Football League, a football stadium, professional sports, and frankly, I just don't like what he has represented. And a lot of people are on the same side of the fence as that one. A lot of mischief has been caused because of this. And of course, he being one of the key linchpins in this whole thing, as I see it, well, that's my opinion, folks. I can have that opinion, just like you can have your opinion. You may think that I'm completely off my rocker, and that's okay. But guess what? All of that stuff started happening when this guy started doing what he did. And oh, by the way, I believe he did sue the National Football League or the Players Association or this team or that team, got a whole bunch of money, I don't know, 80-odd million bucks, whatever the heck it was. Who knows? All I know is it seems like once this guy, mind you, let me say this. He had a contract. and he turned the contract down from the San Francisco 49ers because apparently it either wasn't enough money or he didn't want to be a backup or some crap like that. All I know is apparently it wasn't enough. It wasn't good enough for whatever capacity one way or another. So what does he do? He didn't really do anything directly now, did he? Not that I know of, except protest games, which caused a ridiculous movement using the NFL and their teams' platforms that they paid for their own agenda, which, of course, that is always a big, fat no. Look, if you want to protest something, go ahead and protest it, but do it on your own time and your own dime, not on the television audience. Don't inflict the audience with this BS agenda. So I don't want to hear, oh, poor Colin Kaepernick with his tens of millions and millions and millions of dollars from not even playing football. Oh, like he wants to be back a part of the league? Really? That was the league that, as I see it, he crumbled with this BS movement and all this other crap, dividing Americans with the colors of their skin. We're all red-blooded Americans. I don't care what color, red, green, purple, black, brown, yellow, who cares? Guess what? At the end of the day, we all bleed red. So I don't want to hear any of this racial crap. Colin Kaepernick, in my opinion, needs to stay home and do whatever the hell he's doing. Stay away from the football field. Stay away from professional sports. I've had it with him, and I'm sure a lot of you people have as well. Back here in a few minutes. We're fired up over here on the circus.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC Sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from fabulous Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. Big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates. From Honolulu, our friends, a big hello to you over on KHKA, that's CBS Sports 1500, home of the New York Yankees, and of course, San Francisco 49ers and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome into all of our affiliates up and down the West Coast, all of our independents as well, all the way across to Chicagoland, all the way down to Texas. Big hello to our friends over in Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, 1230 on the AM dial, War Eagle. And big hello to our friends, of course, over in Atlanta, WDJY, 99.1 FM, plus all of our other affiliates up and down from Miami all the way up to Maine, and a whole bunch of points in between. Also, everybody watching on television, thanks for joining us on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, and WOW Cable Television, plus Time Warner. All those affiliates and Hotel TV, plus everybody else on Facebook, watching on Chicago Food Favorites. Make sure you check that out, folks. Like and follow, participate, have some fun. It's all free. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com. Yes! Yeah, they've been with us since the very beginning. Always want to shout out for them. All right, now that we got all that business taken care of, had a really not so fun story dealing with the, I want to say the San Diego Chargers, the Superchargers, but it would be the LA Chargers. That's where they started, in case you don't know. Just like the Rams, they started in Cleveland. How many people know that one? Anyway, so back to the Chargers and their head coach. So, you know, he came from Michigan, won a national title there last season. And, of course, now according to the Associated Press, the NCAA hands former Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh a lofty 4-year suspension, show cause order for recruiting violations. Oh boy, that's not so good, folks. Out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, the NCAA announced a 4-year show cause order for former Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh for impermissible contact with recruits and players during the COVID-19 pandemic, effectively banning him from college athletics until 2028 August. Yeah, you heard that right. 4 years, he is not allowed to be around in the college football world, apparently. So, the NCAA said Harbaugh, who left his alma mater to coach the Superchargers after last season's undefeated national championship team, quote, failed to promote an atmosphere of compliance and violated head coach responsibility obligations, close quote. Now, of course, the NCAA said in a 48-page decision that several times suggested the coach was not truthful in investigators' eyes. Quote, Harbaugh engaged in unethical conduct and failed to cooperate when he denied any involvement in impermissible recruiting contact despite substantial information to the contrary, close quote. Now, Harbaugh will only face the punishment if he makes an unexpected return to college football within the next 4 years. Now, the recruiting case is unrelated to the NCAA's investigation into impermissible in-person scouting and sign stealing allegations that apparently aided Michigan's championship, their season from a year ago, and resulted in a 3-game suspension of Harbaugh by the Big Ten Conference. So, multiple infractions. Cases in such short time periods could prompt the NCAA to treat Michigan as a repeat offender, opening the school up to harsher penalties in the sign-stealing case. Now, Jay Azell, an attorney based in Birmingham, Alabama, who handles such cases, says, quote, it probably just matters more in terms of how the committee or on infractions interprets the entire case and whether they're giving the institution the benefit of the doubt in some areas. Close quote. Well, that's kind of an interesting perspective coming from an attorney based in Alabama. I wonder if Alabama had any issues over there with, well, when Nick Saban was there with that regime. Now Nick Saban is gone. That's another discussion for another time. Pretty interesting stuff. I wonder if they had those in Ohio State over at Columbus. I wonder if they had those in South Bend where Notre Dame is located. I wonder if any of that stuff happened. I wonder if that happened down in Miami, over in Coral Gables down in Florida, the University of Miami. Pretty interesting conversation. Nonetheless, new Michigan coach Sherrone Moore is facing allegations he violated NCAA rules related to the investigation into scouting and sign stealing. 3 people briefed on a pending notice of allegations told the Associated Press this recently. All spoke, of course, on a condition of anonymity because the notice was confidential. Isn't it always confidential? 2 of the people said Moore had been accused of deleting text messages with Connor Stallions, the former low-level recruiting staffer who coordinated an off-campus advanced scouting operation around the time the investigation was opened. Didn't we see something like this at Arizona State? All right, let's stick with this one. One of the people said the NCAA has recommended a less serious level 2 violation for Moore, adding that messages between Moore and Stallions were recovered and that the coach provided them to the NCAA. So somebody was a whistleblower on the inside because they didn't want to get punished. That's called a stoolie, and you don't want to be that guy in the fun house because those guys get made examples of. Anyway, the NCAA already put Michigan on 3 years of probation along with a fine and recruiting limits after reaching resolution. In the case, Harbaugh did not go along with the agreement, contesting allegations he failed to cooperate with investigators and his case was handled separately. That's kind of interesting. Anyway, the Committee on Infractions noted that Harbaugh's, quote, intentional disregard, close quote, for NCAA rules amplified the severity of the case and prompted the panel to classify Harbaugh's case as level 1 aggravated, leading to a 1-year suspension as part of the show cause order. Now, the order itself runs through August 6, 2028. It requires any school wanting to hire Jim Harbaugh over the next 4 years to suspend him for the first full season. After that, Harbaugh would still be barred from athletic-related activities, including team travel, practice, video study, recruiting, and team meetings until the order actually expires. So Harbaugh's attorney had said that he was not invited to participate in the settlement process, nor he was aware that an agreement had been reached between the school and the NCAA. He blasted the NCAA's punishment. In fact, he had said on social media, quote, "The way I see it, from Coach Harbaugh's perspective, today's COI decision is like being in college and getting a letter from your high school saying you've been suspended because you didn't sign your yearbook." That's crazy. He continues with, "If I were in Coach Harbaugh's shoes and had an $80 million contract as head coach of the Chargers, I wouldn't pay attention to the findings of a kangaroo court which claim to represent the principles of the nation's most flagrant repeat violator of the federal antitrust laws," close quote. Hey, kangaroo court, didn't we see one of those in New York with Mr. Donald Trump? I guess they're trying to cause all kinds of mayhem in his world too. That seems to be a kangaroo court as well, but that's another one. Actually, they deserve an astounding round of boos for what's going on with those people. Trying to keep the commander-in-chief, he will be the commander-in-chief again, trying to keep him out of the election. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Anyway, Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel noted the school had already accepted sanctions and served many of the penalties. In fact, Manuel said, quote, "Our staff has worked to improve processes and we are focused on the future and our commitment to integrity and compliance," close quote. Moore, who was promoted from offensive coordinator to head coach when Harbaugh bolted for the Chargers. Filled in as acting head coach 4 times last season while Harbaugh served suspension, including the regular season finale against Ohio State. Now, in fact, in-person scouting is banned by the NCAA, which investigated Michigan's alleged system to determine how organized it was and who knew about it. Stallions who had not cooperated with the NCAA in its investigation will break his silence coming up real soon on, of course, what? Netflix, when the documentary Sign Stealer makes its debut on the streaming service. There it is, folks. There's always a payoff somewhere in there. And there you have it. This story goes on and on, but you know, at the end of the day, it's always about money, isn't it? I just would love to find out how come you don't see these issues with Ohio State, with Alabama, Notre Dame. How come you don't see them with those schools? Oklahoma. That's a whole nother discussion. Anyway, folks, back here with a little bit more football. When we come back, we're going to shift into what the preseason rankings look like, and then we're going to get into a quarterback that was injured right out early in the NFL. Back in a few minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP, stands for All Ages Media Programming, in case you're keeping score. All right, folks, this segment brought to you in part by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which are our podcast. Of course, we don't do a podcast. We just happen to store our fully recorded shows on those platforms like Apple, Audible, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, etc., Pandora, you name it, Google. You can't get away from us, folks. Also, make sure you check out the upcoming schedule. Lots of great shows coming up. Our 2000 show is coming up real soon here. Of course, we're going to have 4 Super Bowls on that show. We'll have 2 with a father and 2 with 2 sons of that father. That would be Craig Colquitt, who won 2 Super Bowls with the Steel Curtain Pittsburgh Steelers and Terry Bradshaw. And then Britton Colquitt, who won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. And his other brother, his brother is Dustin Colquitt, who won a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. Imagine that. 2 generations of punters, mind you, all winning Super Bowls. And all 3 of them were stars at the University of Tennessee. Of course, a nice round of applause for them as well. They even have a section, I guess, in the athletic building. It's the Colquitt... it's a Colquitt Center or something. I can't remember what it is. I'll have to look it up, and I'll ask them about it when we're on air. But anyway, pretty cool stuff. That's going to be our 2000s show. Man, that's a lot of shows, folks. And some of these shows, for a long time, we used to do 2 hours per day. So now we're down to an hour a day, where I don't know if I can handle 2 hours a day anymore, but I have to tell you, we pack as much stuff as we can into these. They're a lot of fun. They're hard-hitting. Hey, listen, sometimes I make myself mad talking about these topics, if you know what I mean. I can't help it. But, you know, when I read some of these and I discuss them, I'm passionate about it, but at the same time, I'm sure a lot of you people, when you hear something that you don't like, you're like, hey, you know what? This isn't right, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's not right. So I was really upset about the whole Kaepernick thing. I was very upset about this bias against Michigan. Now, mind you, I didn't go to the University of Michigan. I went to a rival of all those schools anyway. My point is, I don't think it's right for what they're doing to the University of Michigan, what they did to Jim Harbaugh. Look, they had the same problem in all these other universities, but they never seemed to eyeball them. And I had mentioned some of those previously. I don't get it. But anyway, leaving Michigan was Jim Harbaugh. And in fact, into the draft, the Vikings' first-round pick was their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, a very good one, by the way. But this guy, unfortunately, has seen better days, because now Vikings rookie J.J. McCarthy out for the 2024 season after a meniscus injury. That's unbelievable. In fact, the Minnesota Vikings will have to wait to see J.J. McCarthy on the field for quite some time. In fact, the 2024 first-round draft pick underwent a full meniscus repair recently. Head coach Kevin O'Connell announced that the rookie will be out for 2024. Now, McCarthy injured himself in his preseason opener. That's awful. In fact, he stayed in the game despite the knee being sore, and the Vikings took a closer look at it just a couple of days later, and the Vikings discovered a torn meniscus in McCarthy's knee, but initially said they wouldn't really know the extent of the injury and a timetable for return. That's because they haven't looked at it yet. Anyway, McCarthy wasn't expected to start in the regular season anyway. The team's plan was for Sam Darnold to begin the season as the first quarterback number 1, of course, to allow McCarthy time to sit and learn and watch. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, yes, will the Vikings will miss him for sure? No question. But then again, JJ was likely going to be sitting most of the season anyway. So, yes, this one stings a little bit, but not as bad as one may think. I mean, look, the decision was finalized for the team on the injury. And let's face it, for a while, Vikings fans will have to hold on to the images of JJ's first preseason game. And he played quite well. He was 11 for 17, passed for 188, 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. In fact, most of his work came against players far down the Raiders' depth chart, though, but he still looked decisive and made nice throws. So it was second string playing against second string or third string, whatever the case. Look, they're all playing NFL games in the first place. At least they're wearing the colors, wearing the hats, wearing the helmets. And look, this is a very tough job for these guys to go in and play. Doesn't matter what level, whether it's first team, second team, third team. It's just as difficult to play even on the college side. The game is just a lot faster in the NFL. And of course, the guys are a little bit bigger and stronger, and they're certainly more skilled. Anyway, the Vikings will certainly be careful with McCarthy's return, and they traded up to the 10th pick to get him, and of course, have been cognizant of doing what's best in his development ever since picking him. Of course, that plan didn't include a preseason injury, which puts a damper on the Vikings' season before it even starts. But somehow, they'll be okay. They're playing in a fairly weak NFC North. Despite what Detroit did, the Bears are going to be a little bit better. The Packers are still going to be the Packers. And unfortunately, the Vikings were kind of slated to be in the tank anyway. They were pretty much picked to be the last place team. So this really shouldn't be too much of a big pill for them to swallow. Now, talking about college football, we have these preseason polls. So we have the Associated Press Top 25 as well. Look, a week after the Bulldogs were picked as the number one team in the coaches poll, Georgia was also chosen by the voters in the Associated Press and the AP poll as the top team in the country heading into the 2024 season. Bulldogs got 46 first place votes and are ahead of Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. So Ohio State got 15 first place votes and Oregon got 1. No other team got a first place vote. Notre Dame and Florida State are the only 2 teams in the top 10 that aren't members of the Big Ten or the SEC. Ole Miss is at number 6 ahead of Notre Dame. And Penn State is at number 8 ahead of the defending national champion Michigan Wolverines and Florida State at number 10. Like the coaches poll, the first AP poll of the season is filled with power conference teams and Notre Dame. And there are no teams from the group of 5 conferences in the top 25, and Boise State is the top team outside the power conferences among the teams also receiving votes. So the similarities go even further. The top 11 teams in each poll are the exact same team down to the order, and the polls are filled out with the same top 25 teams as well. And the first difference in rankings between the polls is at number 12 with Utah is there in the AP, while LSU is there in the coaches poll. So with the polls having the same 25 teams, that means there are 9 SEC teams in the top 25. 9. That's ridiculous. Well, the Big Ten has 6 in the top 25. The Utes are one of the 5 Big 12 teams in the polls, and there are 3 other ACC teams in the top 25, along with Florida State. I like how they say that. Along with Florida State, because they're looking, seemingly, as I've heard, to leave the ACC. And it seems like the likely landing spot for them would be the SEC. Just in terms of proximity, it seems to make a hell of a lot more sense than to bring them into the Big Ten. Because if you bring them into the Big Ten, that means you're going to have to bring Miami with you. So the Big Ten, of course, already covers from sea to shining sea, from basically from the New York market to the LA market, all the way up to the Seattle market. And obviously they own the heartland of the country. So with Rutgers and Maryland on the East Coast, Rutgers being in New Jersey, that covers the New York market. I mean, geez, if they add Florida State being in Tallahassee, but they have to add Miami, then they would take all the way down into the Southeast, which they're already recruiting down there anyway. But the reality is, Florida State is looking to get out of the ACC after the debacle of what happened last year. How they didn't make it, mind you, they were undefeated, to the college football playoff still, it just baffles a lot of people. They were undefeated and they were not there, and they should have been there as a representative of the Atlantic Coast Conference. They're so upset that they want to leave the conference, and frankly, I don't blame them. It's just ridiculous. So running down these top 25 teams from bottom to top, all the way down at 25 is Iowa. Iowa comes at 25, NC State 24, USC, now a member of the Big Ten. Imagine that. At 23, Kansas at 22, Arizona, now a member of the Big 12. At 21, Texas A&M, Miami, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. And, you know, I thought that Oklahoma State and Oklahoma had to move together. That was the policy. And ironically, it was Oklahoma that moved to the SEC, but Oak State didn't. I wonder why that was allowed when that's at the state legislature, as I understand. Anyway, Tennessee at number 15, Clemson 14, LSU 13, Utah at 12, Missouri, a very good Missouri team at number 11, Florida State at number 10, horribly underranked at number 10, Michigan number 9, Penn State number 8, Notre Dame at number 7. I believe they're highly overrated. Ole Miss, a very good Ole Miss team at number 6. They'd be better if they could play a little bit better defense. Alabama, number 5. Not really sure why with DeBoer as their new coach. Texas, number 4. Not really sure why there either. Oregon, number 3. Not really sure why there because they're missing what? Bo Nix. Bo Nix plays for the Denver Broncos now. Ohio State, number 2. And Georgia at number 1. Yes, the rankings, the preseason rankings, that is, they really don't mean anything. It's just, this is what we feel. And at the end of the day, folks, it's just somebody's opinion. They have not played a snap of this season yet, so none of this stuff means anything. Back here in a few minutes, we're going to shift out of football into something else. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you find out what we're shifting into. See what gears we're shifting into. There's a hint for you. Back here in a few. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Look out! Can Dillon fight back? He's had a great car all weekend long. One more time around for Logano. The white flag's in the air.
If Dillon gets to him, there will be contact.
He can't do it in 1 and 2. Logano looks back. He has a car length now. Joey Logano through 3 and 4 for the final time. There's the contact. He does get to him. The 11 on the inside. He gets into the wall. Dillon's going to win it at the line.
Pop proud of you, buddy.
Imagine that, folks. Imagine you're in first place with 1 lap to go. 1 lap. And Joey Logano is spun by Austin Dillon, and you lose literally 100 or 2 feet away from the finish line. That's unbelievable. In fact, it's so bad that NASCAR stripped Austin Dillon of a playoff berth after he wrecked Joey Logano, which we just said he spun him, and Denny Hamlin for the win at Richmond. That's unbelievable. I can't even believe that's even allowed. In fact, Austin Dillon's no longer in the NASCAR Cup Series playoff, so NASCAR had said that Dillon would be allowed to keep the win from the race at Richmond, which he, in my opinion, he certainly shouldn't be able to, but wouldn't be able to use that win to qualify for the playoffs. Dillon crashed both Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin on the last lap in his efforts to make the postseason in NASCAR's win and in playoff format. In fact, Dillon entered the race 32nd in point standing and appeared to have the race won straight up before a late caution for a crash between Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ryan Preece. After pit stops, Logano got the lead on the ensuing overtime restart and was leading into turns 3 and 4 on the final lap before Dillon spun him. As a matter of fact, as Dillon slowed to avoid Logano's spinning car, Hamlin went low to pass Dillon for the win. As Hamlin was doing that, Dillon turned low into Hamlin and hooked Hamlin into the wall. Unbelievable. It's just ridiculous. It just seems like there's always somebody doing something. They say, well, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I hear that one all the time, and that's a bunch of BS. Winners never cheat and cheaters never win. Unless, of course, well, you're in the racing world. So Dillon's penalty came very soon, of course, after NASCAR declined to make a ruling immediate in the aftermath of the checkered flag. After the race, NASCAR executive Elton Sawyer said that NASCAR would review what happened on the final lap and that what Dillon did was up against the line of what is and isn't acceptable on the track. In fact, Dillon was also penalized 25 points for his moves on the final lap, in addition to having his playoff spot taken away. He's now 31st in the point standings and can still qualify for the playoffs if he wins one of the final 3 races of the regular season, either at Michigan, Daytona, or Darlington. Well, geez, you know what that means? We'll just go ahead and spin somebody else. That's how we'll get a win again, I guess. I don't know. It's ridiculous. So his spotters, Brandon Benesh, was suspended for 3 races after he was heard saying, "Wreck him," on the final lap. Yes, he said wreck him. That's ridiculous. Now, Logano has been fined $50,000 for revving the engine of his car as he came up to the stop on pit road near family and members of Dillon's team after the race. So insult to injury, he got the race stolen from him, and then he had to pay a whole bunch of money because he was revving his engine. How stupid is that? And of course, Richard Childress Racing is appealing the penalties to Dillon. Now, Dillon's desperation, well, let's face it, it's not really something uncommon. Now, we see a quote here, and this was on X from RCR Racing. And they say Richard Childress Racing is very disappointed in NASCAR's penalty against the number 3 team. We do not agree with the decision that was made and plan to appeal. Really? Well, guess what? Dillon's desperation is born of NASCAR's playoff system anyway. NASCAR's win-in playoff format begs drivers like Dillon to do what he did in this last race. And frankly, I don't believe that, but that's just what they're going to say. So who's writing it, who's spinning it is really what we should be thinking about here. With just 4 races to go before the postseason, Dillon entered the race knowing he needed to get a win to advance to the postseason and earn a lot more prize money for his team. Now, even if you don't agree with his actions on the final lap, you can understand, this is what the writer says from Yahoo Sports. I don't agree with it. You can understand why he acted upon in desperation. After driving away with the lead in the final laps, Dillon found himself in second place with a half a lap to go. And of course, this race was probably going to be his best chance to get a playoff spot. And of course, Dillon said in his post-race news conference, quote, I've seen Denny and Joey make moves that have been running people up the track to win. This is the first opportunity in 2 years for me to be able to get a win. I drove in there and kept all 4 tires turning across the start-finish line. To me, I've seen a lot of stuff over the years in NASCAR where people move people. It's just part of our sport. You know what I mean? Remember when Joey said, short track racing? He knows what it is. In your shoes, what do you do? Close quote. So, they're saying that Dillon acted with the presumed comfort of a NASCAR that wasn't going to do much, if anything, about it. NASCAR has been reluctant to penalize drivers for rough driving at the Cup level over the past decade. In 2014, Ryan Newman, while driving for the same team Dillon drives for today that said wreck him, purposely crashed Kyle Larson into the, well, let's just put it this way. Crash him into a spot you don't want to be in there. Anyway, he put him in a very bad spot at the end of the season to move on to the winner-take-all round, which is absolutely wrong. In my opinion, NASCAR didn't even penalize him, and Newman, of course, at all for the maneuver itself. So here, the same organization, the same problem. Wash, rinse, repeat. I guess that's what we're seeing here. But Dillon, his move of crashing not 1 but 2 drivers was apparently even too egregious for NASCAR to let go. Had he simply crashed Logano and not Hamlin, it seems likely that NASCAR could keep Dillon in the playoffs. I don't think NASCAR is going to keep him in the playoffs. They say, the writer says, NASCAR keeps Dillon in the playoffs. I don't believe that. Anyway, could that right hook of Hamlin's have been the tipping point? Just a year ago in Charlotte, Chase Elliott was suspended for a race after he hooked Hamlin into the wall in a similar spot. So, the writer of this article says, it's time for NASCAR to revamp its officiating. Well, it's time for the writers of articles to stop spinning it just so they could try to sell what? Some more advertising? I think that's what this is about, isn't it? That's what the mainstream media does. Well, guess what? That's what this one's doing right here. Anyway, I'm here to tell you different. The multi-day delay between the end of the race and NASCAR's announcement underscored the dilemma NASCAR currently faces with its officiating. The writer goes on to say there are plenty of reasons why NASCAR race controls should have immediately reviewed the finish of the race on Sunday night and penalized Dillon in the moments thereafter. As the penalty showed, Dillon's actions were worthy of a significant penalty, and it was clear to anyone watching live that, well, that's what he did. And that wasn't going to go unpunished. So, I guess you have to ask, as hardcore fans, NASCAR's race control decisions have also shown to be inconsistent at best in recent seasons. Just 2 years ago, NASCAR penalized William Byron 2 days after he initially intentionally spun Denny Hamlin under the caution during a race. And the spin went unpunished during the race. Now, by waiting a couple of days, NASCAR dragged out what should have been a cut-and-dry decision and also opened it up to an appeal. How do you like that? There's always that proverbial appeal. And, of course, you can always appeal the decision and this and that. Just like we saw in the Olympics. Yeah, how'd that work out? I don't think so. The bronze medal's gone. Anyway, by rule, teams can't appeal in-race officiating decisions. They can, however, appeal midweek penalty decisions. And sometimes those appeals work. Well, in this case, it ain't going to. Byron's penalty was overturned on an appeal less than 2 weeks later. Had he been punished during the race, the penalty would have stuck. So, I guess you ask yourself, will this process play out the same way if a win and in driver intentionally crashes another one for the win at the regular season finale in Darlington? Will NASCAR adjust the playoff field through the week before the first playoff race? At the very least, the saga shows that NASCAR needs to be more immediate with consequential calls like this, according to Yahoo. Penalizing Dillon was the right move, and hopefully it empowers NASCAR to act quicker when a similar situation happens in the future. With all that said, I'm wondering, is NASCAR getting soft? I mean, look, we saw this in professional football. We've seen the game turn into almost a flag football game. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't hit the receiver. You can't do anything. Basically, it seems to me that they're playing flag football out there. Is that what racing is going to turn into? I don't know. I mean, these cars are certainly built to take a little bit of punishment. And there's bumping in every race that I've ever seen. Why should this be any different? You know, we had Ricky Stenhouse on this show talking about that kind of thing. Oh, I don't know. I think it was probably about 5 years ago. And Ricky was very candid with us. And then we had a conversation with Mario Andretti, the great Mario Andretti. Of course, he always gets a round of applause. We had Mario on this show about 4 years ago, talking about all the different levels that he won at, from sprint cars to NASCAR to Indy cars, Formula One. He's actually done it all. And so he even said that there's always bumping going on, because I asked him about that. And I also asked him about racing on the different kind of tracks, whether it was a dirt track or whether it was a pavement, whether it was an oval or a street racing, a street race type of thing like Formula One. The reality is, look, there's always bumping going on. The question is, what is allowed, what isn't allowed? It's either bumping is allowed or no bumping is allowed. And you can't say no bumping is allowed because there's so many damn cars out there on the track in the first place. Bumping is going to happen. So for this writer from Yahoo, I mean, look, good for you for writing a reasonable article. But I will tell you, Mr. Nick Bromberg, who is the senior writer that wrote this one, I'd say, you know, check all the details and all the facts prior to writing this. You did a good job, but I think your spin is a little bit too heavy, folks. Almost like the spin of Joey Logano's car. All right, folks, we're going to see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.